We all know there's a lot at stake in this year's elections, and people with disabilities are urging politicians to listen to their concerns. The Disability Network Wayne County, Detroit held a forum last month to let candidates hear firsthand about the issues impacting the disabled, senior citizens, and veterans. The organization educates and connects their clients with services such as transportation, housing, and healthcare. I'm pleased to welcome the executive director of the Disability Network, Lori Hill Sanders, to American Black Journal. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I actually think this is an issue that most politicians do very poorly on. Even when they're right in the way that they legislate or direct or manage on it, they're terrible at talking about these issues,
Right.
at putting them front and center and saying, we could do things maybe a little differently for this population, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yeah. And as a part of my job, that is a part of what I do. I have to build ongoing relationships with our state legislators, and it becomes difficult because their positions are termed.
I was
So
gonna say,
every
they're not there that
term,
long now.
so every term you have to learn a new group, a new set. But it's an ongoing process. That's a part of the advocacy that we do is building and maintaining those relationships with our state legislators.
And how receptive do you find them to the idea that they have to think differently
The key
about these
thing
issues?
is if it hits home.
Mhm.
You know, if they have a senior, an aging parent, or if they have a child that has a disability, and I think that pretty much that's with a lot of things. It has to really hit home for that individual, whether it's a CEO that I'm trying to get funds from, or whomever, or another organization that I'm partnering with. They need to have that passion, and it has to be a situation that's very near and dear to them.
So let's talk about some of the issues that your clients
hmm
are concerned that politicians are not addressing this cycle. What's on the list?
One of the key issues, mobility, is a key issue for individuals with disabilities. Just being able to have access to being able to navigate where they need to navigate to within the city, outside of the city, that is a key issue
Hmm.
that needs to definitely be addressed.
Yeah.
And then affordable housing is another issue that is it's a key factor
Uh-huh.
for individuals with disabilities.
Yeah. And where are we with? So the mobility question
Yes,
ties into transit.
yes,
In
it
particular,
does.
we do a poor job of transit overall in Southeast Michigan.
hmm
Do we do a particularly poor job of mobility access for
Well, there is
disabled?
paratransit for individuals with disabilities. And I have a number of my board members that are disabled and they utilize paratransit so that they're able to navigate and do the things that they need to do. They have a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Sometimes our board meeting ends at 6 o'clock. They're waiting until 7:30 for their
For
transit to come pick them up and take them back home. I have an individual that works at our center, Sarah. She's visually impaired. We close at 4:30. I typically work late. Sometimes I can leave at 7 o'clock and Sarah's still sitting there
waiting.
for transportation to pick her up.
Yeah.
So it's a critical issue.
Yeah. And when we are having these debates about transit, which we
hmm
had one a couple of years ago,
Okay.
and the proposal failed,
hmm
but they tried to take another run at it this year. Did you feel like there was enough attention during that debate on access for the disabled or senior citizens?
You know, when I talk with my consumers that have mobility is a challenge, they feel that it's not. But let me say this to you, with
Hmm.
any disability, a person does not realize that they have a disability until they encounter a barrier with what
Sure.
it is that they're trying to do. So sometimes I have to look at the situation as to how my consumers are dealing with it to really be able to relate. And then I'm able to identify the things that we have to advocate for as an organization in regards to that issue.
Yeah. The other issue you mentioned was affordable housing.
Yes,
That's a huge issue for a lot of people.
yes.
Talk about the special challenges to senior citizens or the disabled with affordable
Well,
housing.
the special challenges with that is that Disability Network, as also with our other 15 sister centers that are within the state of Michigan, we all come from the premise or the foundation or belief that individuals should be able to live independently. We do not advocate for guardianship, institutionalization. We try to remove individuals out of those situations so that they can live independently on their own.
Yeah.
So if you have an individual that's in a nursing home that's disabled and they want to come back into the community, which we're very strong advocates for, sometimes finding housing that is affordable for them is very challenging. And I mean decent
Yeah.
housing,
Right.
um, where they can feel safe and it's not deplorable conditions. And that's a very big challenge if you're an individual that you have a fixed income based on your disability and you have to live off of this. And not only live off of this, you have to be able to make sure your utilities are paid,
Hmm.
medications, whatever additional things that you have to pay for during that month.
Yeah.
And that's why we even have a program for individuals to live, have an independent living situation where they go into an apartment and they live for 2 weeks and we work with them to help them develop their independent living skills. We help them with financial literacy so that they know how to budget what they're getting based on that fixed amount that they get each
Right.
month. And that is kind of like that model or that mock situation to actually put them in the situation and give them as much hands-on experience as we can as living independently.
Uh, uh, One of the things I think is sort of critically important is the idea of that messenger at a really high level of government,
Hmm.
somebody who really gets it and can say, these are really important issues and we need to pay attention to them. And I'm thinking here of Brian Calley, who's the lieutenant governor now,
Hmm.
who's done amazing work for kids who have autism
Hmm.
and other kinds of disabilities. Do you see somebody else maybe emerging because he's going to leave office? Is there somebody else who you think might be that new vessel for that message?
I don't know who that is right now,
Hmm.
but in you know, right now is after November when I see who's in place,
Hmm.
that's when you start doing your research
Hmm.
with your individuals that are your legislators
Hmm.
and you start seeing what commonalities, what's going to be passionate for them, and you and I think it's going to be very important starting a new term. Education is so
Yeah.
important, and that's what we're going to start doing as a network is educating our legislators because once individuals are educated, they can actually become an advocate for
Right.
you.
Right.
And
That's the
that's the
first step.
key.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, great work and thanks for being
Mhm.
here.
Thank you.
Mhm.